Hey, what's going on guys, this is AndrewChicken and welcome back to another video. Next up in our top 5 champion series is the Flank class, which has a lot of spicy and powerful champions who many people enjoy playing. Flank champions are similar to damage champions in that their job is to earn kills for their team. However, while damage champions are often slow with powerful damage at all ranges, flanks are usually more suited to close quarters combat and have far more mobility than their damage counterparts. They offer a more active and exciting gameplay experience compared to most damage champions, but often require more skill or involve more risk. In this video, I'll be giving my opinions on who I think are the top 5 best flank champions in Paladins. These champions are the most capable of getting kills reliably and living to tell the tale, and are both extremely strong in the hands of someone with lots of experience, but also not super hard to get into. But before we get started, I need to go over a few disclaimers. First, this list is from a keyboard and mouse perspective. The meta in this game is different depending on your input type, as controller players favor fast-firing hit scans due to their aim assist, while keyboard and mouse players have an easier time squeezing every ounce of value out of projectile champions. So if you're a controller player and you're wondering why Talos isn't on the list, that's why. Also, it's very important for me to iterate that this list is just my opinion. You shouldn't take it as gospel, and if your opinion differs, that is absolutely fine. Most flank champions are extremely good if you take the time to master them, so if you find someone who is not on this list to be fun and powerful, that's fantastic. Make sure to let me know who you think the strongest flank champions are in the comments section down below. Just don't forget to keep the discussion respectful. But if this is just my opinion, then why does my opinion matter? Well, I'm a seasoned veteran at this game with far too many hours, and I've reached Masters in 3 separate seasons. I've seen just about everything this game has to offer, and my abundance of experience has guided the placements on this list. I'm not a perfect player, but I think it's safe to say I know a thing or two about this game. And finally, if you're watching this in the future, this list may be outdated. This list is from Season 5, or 2022. If you're in a different season or a different year, then take these placements with a grain of salt. This is reflective of the meta at the time of writing, not necessarily of the meta in the future. But with all those hefty disclaimers out of the way, let's go ahead and get straight into the video. Number 5. Xin. Starting off in the number 5 spot is by far the easiest champion on this list, Xin. Xin is one of the most forgiving champions in the game because he's basically the cockroach of Paladins. He's very hard to get rid of. Xin's sword is an interesting weapon because while its damage and range are both completely unimpressive, it's also a really good weapon because it's almost impossible to miss with. The projectiles are absolutely massive, making his weapon extremely consistent as long as he is in range. The collision hitbox for terrain is also smaller than the collision hitbox for players, making it so Xin can hit people who are behind corners with some practice. This makes his weapon good for cover denial as well, and it's all around just super useful. Xin's next 2 abilities are what make him almost impossible to kill. His first ability is Counter, which allows him to flick up his sword and deflect anything that's incoming. And by anything, I do mean anything. Dragon Punch, King Bomb, Convergence, even a whole freaking blizzard. Some things he can't deflect, such as Sky's Time Bomb, which is specifically designed to go through barriers such as his. But what Xin can't deflect with Counter, he can outright evade with Billow. Billow makes him go ethereal, where he is completely untouchable by any form of damage, crowd control, or status effect. He can still be healed however, making this a useful ability to disengage from a fight and get healed up. With a little bit of Chronos in the right build, Xin can be almost untouchable from these 2 abilities alone. Xin's Whirl and Ultimate, however, are wholly unimpressive. The Whirl is just a dash with some damage attached to it. It's very helpful and can be used in a combo with his regular strikes and counter, but it doesn't go vertically and is nothing to write home about. His ultimate is actually one of the worst in the flank class, believe it or not. If it connects with the target, it only does 2000 damage and it puts Xin in a super vulnerable position while he uses it. He can basically only use it as a finisher in a 1v1, since a 2000 damage ability isn't even enough to kill most champions by itself nowadays. Xin can amp up the damage with Guillotine, but again it's only useful as a finisher, since if the target buys Haven 1 or gets a single tickle of healing, they won't die to the ultimate. Xin needs to do some damage to the target beforehand, else the ultimate won't be that effective. And even still, it's super easy for someone else to come in and kill Xin while he's slashing his target. Honestly, I can see why some people use this as a movement ability instead. Number 4. Vora. In the number 4 spot we have the community's favorite champion according to some very scuffed polls, Vora. Vora is an extremely flexible flank who is an improvement over Xin in many ways. For starters, her weapon does better damage, has more range, and a damage over time effect at the cost of a bit of size. Vora can actually poke very well for a flank, which plays well into her general playstyle as you'll see in a moment. And the damage over time gives her a pseudo-reveal on whoever she's shooting, allowing her to counter stealth champions and track people through walls. Vora also has great mobility with her Tendril. This is essentially a grappling hook, which allows her to carry great momentum and fly across the map with ease. And with Relentless Presence, she can have 2 charges for some of the most solid mobility this game has to offer. However, where Vora's real bread and butter lies is with her next two abilities, which give her some great utility. But first, let's talk about her passive, which affects both of these abilities. You see, whenever Vora shoots somebody, she gains a darkness stack which will be consumed whenever she uses an ability that isn't Tendril or her ultimate. Each darkness stack consumed heals Vora for 100 health, allowing her to have some great self-sustain. But where things really start to get interesting is when she consumes 5 darkness stacks on one ability, at which point the ability will be powerfully augmented. Let's start with her Dark Siphon. Dark Siphon is not too dissimilar from a regular attack at first. It deals 600 damage, 400 of which is damage over time. It also heals Vora for 300 health over 2 seconds, which is very great. But when this ability is used with 5 darkness stacks, it cripples whoever it hits. That's right, this is a flank champion with a cripple as a regular ability. This is extremely powerful as it lets Vora be a huge counter to champions who depend on their movement ability to survive, such as Maeve, Eevee, and Ceres. Vora's poke also lets her whittle away at a target's health from a distance or farm a tank for darkness stacks, and then when she's at 5 stacks, she can Tendril in, use Dark Siphon on someone, and obliterate them with little in the way to stop her. And by obliterate them, I literally mean obliterate them, because that's what her next ability is called. Obliterate doubles as both a survivability and damage tool. She spins up in the air and then slams back down, dealing 500 damage in an area around her. However, she's also completely immune to damage while in the air, allowing her to dodge even the most powerful damage abilities with some good timing. And with 5 darkness stacks, it does 800 damage instead of 500. Yeah, not as interesting as Dark Siphon, but still very helpful. And, unlike Xin, her ultimate is much more reliable. It's still only good as a finisher move, but it's a much better finisher move. Vora's ultimate is an execute ability that kills anyone she targets who is below 66% health. She's also damage immune while swinging the scythe, though she can still be targeted before and after the swing. It's still not the craziest ultimate, but it is much better than Xin's. Number 3. Vaatu. In the number 3 spot we have the silent assassin of the flank class, Vaatu. Vaatu is arguably the hardest flank on this list, but he's also one of the most powerful for a variety of reasons. Vaatu has some of the best mobility in the flank class, second only to the number 1 spot coming later in the video. He's got 3 charges of a truly omnidirectional dash, as well as 2 charges of a teleport to get right up in an enemy's face. This allows him to engage with any enemy, chase any enemy down, and dodge and weave in the middle of a fight. Vaatu also has a powerful burst combo with the use of his kunai and his shadow bombs or his ultimate. By using kunai, shadow bombs, and then another set of kunai, he can kill an enemy stupendously quickly. And with the talent Enveloping Shadows, he can get the shadow bombs back relatively quickly just by hitting consistent shots on the enemies, as well as maintain his superb mobility. His ultimate also provides a burst of 800 damage and a powerful stun which can lock down a target for Vaatu to kill. In close range, he can slice through an enemy almost instantly, leaving little room for a reaction from the enemy he's facing. And that 800 damage can mean that, like with the Shadow Bomb combo, he only needs 2 sets of kunai. Vaatu has incredible mobility and great burst, but he is awfully squishy at first glance. He only has 1900 health and he has no defensive ability, but his cards offer some fantastic solutions to this glaring weakness. Vaatu can ramp up some serious damage reduction with the help of these cards here, which allow him to gain some serious beef when using either ambush or shadow bombs. He also has a way to consistently heal himself with this card that heals him on dash, which he's using almost constantly during a fight. And of course, the one thing I left out when I was initially talking about his dash is that, for the duration of the dash, he has 50% damage reduction. So, with some good timing, he can actually face tank damage pretty hard, and it also means that even if an enemy is good and tracks him during the dash, he still won't take as much damage as other champions with similar abilities. So, Vaatu has a lot of great things going for him. He's fast, bursty, and has good cards to cover the weaknesses of his base kit. However, he does have one glaring issue that he can't solve no matter what: his range. Vaatu has pitiful range compared to the likes of other similar champions like Maeve and Eevee, so he has to get up close in order to do good damage. While there is this flick tech that allows him to have more precise kunai throws, it's very hard to do consistently and isn't the most practical. His damage in close quarters is better than either of the champions I just mentioned, but getting up close can be risky against some champions. Still, he has the mobility he needs to get in close and then get out if things get too dangerous, and he has the damage reduction to take a few hits if necessary. So, while his range is lacking, everything else makes him an all-around phenomenal flank, and so Vaatu earns the number 3 spot on this list. Number 2. Androxus. Androxus is one of those champions who can never really figure out how to leave the meta. He's been strong for most of his existence, and 2022 has only made him stronger. Recently, he got a change to his base kit, where the old version of Cursed Revolver replaced the previous Revolver, albeit a weaker version of that talent. So, no matter whether you choose the new Cursed Revolver, Godslayer, or Defiant Fist, you can now enjoy pinpoint accuracy and a significant range increase, just at the cost of some of your close quarters DPS. His base weapon is super solid, dealing 1100 DPS with good range, and it can 3-shot some champions as long as he hits a single headshot. It goes extremely well with the rest of his strong kit, which we'll get into now. Androxus' dash is very similar to Vatu's. It sends him wherever he's aiming and has 3 charges. Unlike Vatu's, the 3 charges have to be used back to back to back, so they're not separate. This does make Andro's dashes feel a little bit less flexible than Vatu's, but there's still a great movement ability for dodging and chasing a target. And of course, you don't have to play Paladins for a long time to find an Androxus performing his infamous dash flicks. With a little bit of practice and some good flick shots, Androxus can be highly evasive while still pumping out fantastic damage. He also has some great survivability in the form of his reversal, which blocks all damage from the front and sends it back at the enemy after 1.4 seconds. Not only can it help him buy time to get out of a tight situation, but it can be used to counter some high damage abilities such as Terminus Ultimate. His ultimate is also pretty good for dishing out a huge amount of damage in a short amount of time. It lets him hover in place with some great air control so he can still jiggle peek behind cover, and it can easily get 1 or 2 kills with some good aim. Androxus' kit is really basic but really solid. It rewards good mechanical skill and is decently forgiving to those who have bad timing when they flank. He also has excellent range damage, so he isn't even forced to go in super hard if he doesn't want to. All of this is great, but why does he deserve number 2 on this list? Well, I've left out one crucial detail up until now, his talent, Cursed Revolver. Ever since the rework, Cursed Revolver has been a devastating talent to go against because of just how much damage it can do. Before his revolver got reworked, Cursed Revolver was the talent that turned his weapon into a slow-firing, pinpoint-accurate revolver with high range. It actually did less damage up close than his base weapon, only dealing 1200 DPS instead of the usual 1444 DPS. However, with just 1 headshot, it was capable of 3-shotting most squishy targets, cutting down on the time to kill drastically. And the increased poke range let him play more safely while still getting incredible value. Now that this form of revolver is in his base kit now, the new Cursed Revolver has been changed to become an even more dominant talent. His base revolver does 1100 DPS, but Cursed Revolver augments his revolver to actually deal more damage per second than the original version. You see, the new Cursed Revolver now applies a damage over time effect that ramps up the longer it's on a target. It has a substantial amount of damage that has absolutely no falloff, and it lasts for over a second. The new Cursed Revolver allows Androxus to 3-shot people without needing a headshot, and if he hits a headshot, it's all the better. In cases where the base revolver would 5-shot, Cursed Revolver could 4-shot. Basically, it cuts down on his time to kill by a lot, no matter the situation. And because the extra damage is added as a damage over time effect, Androxus now has the ability to reveal enemies to himself for a short amount of time. Yeah. So while Godslayer and Defiant Fist are fun options to run and can certainly be viable, there's absolutely no reason to run them when stacked up against Cursed Revolver. It's simply a better primary fire by a lot, and it allows Androxus to score kills incredibly easily while also taking full advantage of the rest of his amazing kit. It's for this reason that Androxus ranks in the number 2 spot, because he has a fantastic kit that gets heavily buffed by an equally fantastic talent. Now, before we reveal the number 1 best flank in Paladins, let's first go over some honorable mentions who came just short of making it onto this list. Let's start with Buck. Buck is very similar to Drogoz in one key way. When left uncountered, he is one of the best champions in the game. When countered, well, it's not pretty. Buck has 3 amazing talents and is basically the tank of the flank class. He can achieve great levels of sustain and damage reduction, and his shotgun provides some solid burst damage when up close. His leap is also great for closing the distance on a target. When all of this is combined with his best talent, Bounce House, he becomes a serious threat. The damage from his jump plus a headshot from his shotgun, an incredibly easy combo to pull off, deals exorbitant amounts of damage. And with the card Stomping Ground, he can chain jumps and snowball an enemy team as long as he keeps killing. That's where the problem comes in. What if he can't kill? If Buck can't dive a target and kill them quickly, he is going to be useless, or he is going to die. He has no poke, he can't play in the backline. And if he can't quickly kill someone after jumping on them, he has no way to get out. He's used his only movement ability to get in, and is left to scurry away praying they don't outdamage his recovery. So, anti-dive champions absolutely destroy Buck's potential. Ray, Torvald, Atlas, and powerful duelists like Shaolin can all nix Buck's ability to do much of anything. So, while he's incredibly strong when he's allowed to dive, he's incredibly useless when he's not. The next honorable mention is Eevee, my beloved. If I were a biased content creator, I would put her at number 1 without hesitation. She is the most fun flank to play, and she's one of the strongest reasons I have to keep playing this game. But the simple fact is, she's not number 1. Not at all. Eevee has long been considered to be one of the hardest champions in the game to master, if not the hardest. While her abilities are simple to understand, they are incredibly mechanically demanding, and she also requires an expert level of map knowledge, counterplay, timing, and positioning to get value out of. She has among the best mobility, but she is incredibly squishy with the lowest health pool in the game. She also doesn't have super great burst. The only way she can do damage apart from her ultimate is with her primary fire, and it only does 850 DPS. She can certainly kill, but not as quickly or as easily as others on this list. While a great Eevee can take this kit and wipe lobbies with it for hours, when stacked up against another player with similar skill on someone like Androxus, Evora, Vatu, even Buck, she can struggle to compete. Against Torvald, Leon, and other hard counters, even the best Eevee players can struggle greatly. Eevee is only as good as the player who uses her, and even in the hands of someone who is amazing at her, she is not the strongest option one could pick. But that's why we love Eevee. We don't play Eevee because she's the strongest, we play her for the challenge. The thrill of outplaying and outskilling our opponent because we dedicated so much time mastering the champion we love, not because we are simply playing a better champion. If I were a biased creator, I would put her in first. I will not put her in first, but she'll always be first in my heart. Number 1. Eevee. In the number 1 spot we have Eevee, the absolute best and my most favoritist champion in all the realm. Okay, just kidding. In the number 1 spot we have the most overtuned character since Azan at release, Seven. Seven saw the description of the flank class, high mobility, good burst, and good utility, and cranked all those stats to 11. Seven easily has the best mobility in the game, it's not even close. Look at how he stacks up to the other most mobile champions in the game, he makes them all look like snails. The reason Seven's mobility is so strong is because of the spring-loaded talent and these 2 cards here, Latch and Fire and the Knight. These cards let him lower the cooldown of one mobility skill by using another mobility skill. So, as long as Seven alternates using his explosive dodge and grappling hook, he can zoom across the map indefinitely. Well, almost indefinitely. He does eventually run out of steam if he doesn't buy Chronos. His mobility without Chronos is still extremely impressive and better than any other champion, but with Chronos? Well, it's just stupid. And what makes Seven's mobility stand out even further from the rest of the crowd is that unlike most other champions, Seven doesn't need to have any skill to reset it. Eevee, Maeve, Buck, Vatu, Androxus, and more all need to hit skill shots or earn kills to get their mobility reset. But Seven? He just has to use his movement ability. No skill required. The only way to counter Seven's mobility is with auto-aim, crowd control, or both. So, champions like Torvald, Genos, and Leon can put a halt to his shenanigans, but not for long. Resilience is an incredibly cheap and effective item, so if they try to use crowd control to their advantage, it's only a matter of time before Seven shrugs it off with ease and gets back to zooming around like Sonic the Hedgehog on crack. Seven is not only the most mobile champion in the game, but he's one of the burstiest. You see, burst mode got buffed to an absolutely absurd level. Not only does it have better range than any other hit scan in the flank class, and better range than most damage champions too, but it's capable of two-shotting most enemies by hitting a small amount of headshots or by combining it with bombs. When grapple is thrown into the picture too, some Seven players don't even need to fire their weapon more than once to kill their poor foe. The icing on the cake of burst mode is that its ammo consumption is also bugged. You see, burst mode fires 6 shots for a stupendous amount of damage, but it only consumes 3 ammo. So, burst mode has insanely good ammo economy, and Seven basically never has to reload during the span of a team fight. Gone are the days of needing to rush deft hands and run the reload speed card with Seven to spam mag dump. Instead, ditch the reload speed, go for more cooldown reduction, and become the biggest pest that this realm has ever seen. And that cooldown reduction makes it so that he doesn't even necessarily need to shoot at all in some fights. As long as Seven is darting around an enemy and spreading bombs everywhere they try to step, the bombs themselves can get the kill in some cases. Each set of bombs deals 750 damage in total, and while they can be destroyed by enemy weapon fire, if they're placed right at their feet and instantly start to blow up, they don't really get that chance. And even if they do destroy the bombs, that just takes fire away from Seven, increasing his survivability. So, Seven has ridiculously high bursts spread across his burst mode and bombs, and he has the best mobility in the game. That has to be where it ends, right? Anything else would just make this champion too powerful. Well, that's where you're wrong. You see, Seven also has some of the most annoying displacement abilities in the history of Paladins, again coming from his bombs and grapple. Seven's grapple not only serves as a fantastic movement ability, but also as a disgusting displacement ability that is extremely unfun to play against. Unlike most other displacements in the game which knock a player away, this one pulls an enemy closer to Seven, kind of like a Makoa hook. Unlike Makoa's hook, however, this one is 10 times more spammable and is also hit scan, making it much easier to hit. Makoa is also slow, big, and you can often tell when the hook is coming. However, 7 can use his insane mobility and cooldown reset to get in your face from across the map in a second and then grapple you into bombs. The range on the grapple is also huge, so 7 could be chilling out at a healthy distance and pull you off of your high ground into a position that will guarantee your death. The grapple isn't the only displacement 7 has, however. The bombs he scatters across the map and plants at your feet also have some hefty knockback to them. Every explosive weapon in the game has a tiny bit of knockback to it, but it's often small and doesn't really cause a huge impact on your gameplay. 7's bombs, however, have a seriously strong knockback effect to them, much greater than the average explosion. When coupled with a grapple, it's possible for a 7 player to almost completely control the movements of the other player, all while dealing insane damage and being really hard to hit. The only thing keeping this champion from reaching the strength of a Zon on release is his health. 7 is exceptionally squishy. At base, he only has 100 more health than Eevee, but without the ice block. While it's understandable that his mobility should be high to compensate, the level of mobility he has is currently far too much. On top of that, Eevee deals 850 damage per second, and that's it. Throw in an ult from time to time and she can occasionally kill someone in 2 seconds instead of 3, but it's nothing compared to the damage of 7, and she doesn't even have any displacement, only a crippling ultimate. 7 outclasses her and every other mobile champion in the flank class so hard that it's not even funny. The problem, however, is that 7 only has one viable playstyle. If you try to play something like a Red Room build, Spider-Man build, or God forbid, Overcharged, 7 becomes a flank who's honestly a bit underwhelming. But play 7 with a spring-loaded mobility spam build, and he is undoubtedly the strongest flank we have at the moment. It's my hope that when balancing this champion, his other playstyles become more viable but not to the point of being overpowered, and that he doesn't get gutted into oblivion. But considering the only nerf he has gotten so far is 10 damage off of automatic mode, it looks like the spring-loaded burst mode mobility spam playstyle is here to stay for a while. So to recap, 7 has the best mobility in the game by a long shot. He requires no skill to use said mobility either because his cooldowns reset off of alternating ability usage rather than hitting skill shots or earning kills. He has some of the best, if not the best bursts in the flank class, as well as more range than most other flanks despite having more than enough mobility to force himself into close quarters combat. He has unparalleled displacement, both in how spammable it is and how effective it is. The only weakness he has is that he's squishy, but considering how strong he is in all the other departments, that doesn't really matter. 7 is undeniably the strongest flank in Paladins at the moment, and he causes frustration for thousands of Paladins players to play against. So, regrettably, he earns the #1 spot on this list. But with that being said, that's going to be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and maybe learned a thing or two about the characters we discussed. Do you agree with my placements, or do you think someone else should take the #1 spot? Please let me know in the comment section down below, and while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this from me. Also, if you want to find players to party up with, consider joining my Discord server linked in the description, and you can also find me streaming on Twitch, which is linked in the same place. Lastly, if you want to support me and this channel, then consider making your next crystal purchase at nexus.gg/AndrewChicken. There, you can buy crystals, the season pass, and more, and support me in the process. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, I will see you all next time, peace out.